Welcome back. In this video we're going to address a couple of things that need to be fixed in the arms and torso before we continue. First off is realizing there's no point in having a cloned arm if I haven't already added in the deformers, because adding those in are not going to then propagate over. The only thing that changes or propagates over is if we update the artwork. That continues additional drawings. That will propagate, but otherwise everything else doesn't. So the first thing I'm going to do is go and delete those items. Now, something else I discovered while I was working on fixing this is that if I say select the torso here and want to nudge the torso front or back. So first I'm going to just rotate the arm here a little bit, so we'll see how the arm rotates its behind. Now if I want to nudge the arm forward, I can nudge it, nudges in front of the torso, that's great, but it won't. I keep nudging, we can see it's changing up here, it's not nudging in front of the rest of my artwork. So that's problematic. And now let's just undo, get it back to original here. Now if we select the torso here, currently we don't have an upper body peg yet. I haven't connected that in, so we probably should set that up where we're connecting in. So we have an upper body peg, a lower body peg, and ultimately a whole character peg. But one of the things that's happening when I'm trying to do this nudging that's not working is I must apologize that I totally spaced on the type of composites that I've been using. I've been using bitmap composites, and we can see that is where they show up as a rectangle. If we go into the node, what we really want to use is a pass-through composite, because what happens with a bitmap composite is all the drawing layers that go into this composite effectively are now flattened as it exits this composite. So it's useful outside our whole character group. When we have our whole character going into a composite, we flatten that composite, so then when we apply effects to it, the effects don't show all the overlapping lines of the layers. So when we're using transparency, when we're using glow nodes and shadows and things like that, then it doesn't cause those problems. So what we need to do is we need to go through and change our composites into pass-throughs. And when we do that, then all the layers are able to pass through as we do any nudging, and we won't end up with any problems along the way. Our OGL controller, let's see, that composite's probably not going to be a big deal, but I will, on any layers where I know I may need to do some adjustments or nudging in space, we will want to pass everything through and not use a flattened composite for it. So we'll have to go back and fix the lower body at some point, but once I start working these different layers and adjusting them with their composites, then we're going to be in much better shape. So right now I just have the upper jacket. That's what we're just going to worry about, the upper jacket. And now if I go and select the lower body, set that as a pass through, at least down there. So we'll have to go in and find a bunch of other elements, but that's now going to mean that if this arm here, and even before we do that, I'm going to just go and connect that node for there and that node there, join those together as an upper body peg. So we have an upper body peg, a lower body peg. We'll just pull, come on. Let's drag that up a little bit so it's not connecting in there. Move over. So this will be our upper body. We can see there is our lower body peg over here. And if we just, wrong option, select those two, connect those together, Control P, double click, and this will be our master peg. So now we're able to select everything, but if I now select the body here, and so now I have the whole torso peg selected, I can nudge it forward, nudge it back, and it doesn't drag the arm with. So I discovered while I was playing with the arm, by not having passed through composites, that I would move the torso, and because the torso and the arm were in an upper body flat composite here, so if we go back to a bitmap, I think this will help us to realize it. So now we have the upper body here, and we let's just move this arm over so we can see where it's now behind. So now if I just select the upper body peg, I should be nudging the upper body, but we can see when it's a bitmap, it brought with the arm, so we don't want that. Oh, I don't want to go. Just trying to hit undo on it. There. So that's the first order of business for correcting things, is going to pass-throughs. That's going to be helpful. Now what I want to do to fix my shoulder here is I'm going to create a patching element, and I'll do it on the jacket. So the nice part about doing that is I just want it to be forward, so it will be near the top of the jacket composite. So I'll just pull this down over here. So we'll add in 2 more element layers for it. Now these element layers, as I create them, I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Let's go choose the color. I want to use the jacket color as part of this. Make sure snap is turned off. Good. And now nothing selected. Let's add in our element node. And then this is going to be my right shoulder patch. And create another element node, and then this one will be my left shoulder patch. And the nice part about these is we're going to be able to just use 2 basic rectangles for them. So let's select those. I'll click down here to attach them in. And we'll start out with the right shoulder patch. And I'll just draw a rectangle on my line art layer. So make sure I'm on my line art layer. And the rectangle I want to draw, so we'll be just creating a basic rectangle shape. And it can be kind of as big or small as we want, because we will be using a cutter to trim it to the body and put a deformer on it so we can further shape what we've done. Delete the line that we drew, go and select the color and fill it. Perfect. And now moving over to the left shoulder patch, we'll repeat that same process. So I'll grab the rectangle. I mean, I guess I could draw it, fill it, and delete the rectangle all on my line art layer, or color art layer if I wanted. And this just matches our model, so we'll leave it there. Delete, go into color, fill. Perfect. So we have those set up. And what we want to do is, now I'm going to just disable these temporarily, and I want to go into the jacket itself. And when I look at the line art, now I want to create 2 lines with snapping turned back on, and because I'm going to refill those lines I deleted, because I realized now this is going to be the better way of hiding it. So I just turn on snapping, and then those lines will very easily reconnect because they were solid. And part of we're doing that is so that we will be using this patch as our way of controlling whether we see things or not. So now when I look at it and go back in my camera view here, go to my drawing tool, we can see where it patches it out. Now it is getting rid of those shoulder lines right there, so we'll probably want to nudge that forward so it's just permanently nudged forward. So then that's, you know, always going to be sitting on top of this box here. So if it's always one greater than when we nudge the whole arm itself forward and back, then it's no big deal. But what I do want to do is I want to trim this box, so it just is trimming it not with the auto patch, but we want to cut it. So let's just go grab a cutter node here, and we'll just put that in right there. We'll add a second one here, put that in right there. And now these two layers are going to be cut by the jacket. So we're not cutting, we want to cut by both the color art, line art, and everything, but we can see we don't want to keep the part out here. We want it to patch inside, or not patch, but, oh yeah, it's a shoulder patch, so we use patch. So just double click, it inverts the cut. So now it sticks it inside, and now we can repeat that same thing over here. Put that mask in, double click on the mask so it inverts, and, oh, of course we don't have an arm there, so we don't fully see the beauty of what is happening, but now let's just disable this mask temporarily, select this artwork here, go grab the rigging tool, and when I grab the rigging tool under rigging tool properties, let's zoom up here. Good, I want an envelope tool. So with this I am going to just kind of click and drag. So the question is, do we do a 4-point or an 8-point? What is going to be easier to kind of control the shape of this? And I think a lot of that will be time will tell. So I'm kind of thinking 4-point is going to be the simpler of the options for controlling this deformer, because we just need to adjust it as we go. So, and then of course use our Alt to kind of turn these into corner points so they're no longer smooth points with it, and then that gives us the perfect control of that box as we need it. So that provides in that deformer there. Probably should have, I'd like to make that the peg for it first. So then the deformer goes in between, so we'll add this peg here. And as long as we're adding in the pegs, we might as well relocate their pivot points. Now both of these, it would make sense that they are moving with the torso, so we'll attach those to the torso peg up here. So then they go with it. Now we can hide that. Now let's select this layer over here and reactivate this cutter, deactivate that cutter so we can see it in its entirety. Grab my rigging tool and I'll repeat the same process. So drag back, and then Alt drag to close. And of course, always just adjust our handles. Oh, didn't mean to add an extra point there. So that now gives me that, reactivate that, so we're in good shape here. Now we can see all I have to do when I'm animating, I can just go and grab the shoulder patch here, and because it is the same color, what I may want to do as part of it, I could add in a OGL controller for it to make it easier to select it so I don't have to find it by clicking on it. So that's something that we will think about adding. as part of it. But now, if I go through and grab this arm, so the whole arm is selected. Now if I move this arm over here, we can see that line. So if we're crossing behind, I think we're going to be okay there. If we want that line in front, of course, we'll need to nudge it in front. So I can always nudge it. That works. And if our arm is here, but the arm is now, the whole arm is in front, all right, looks like we're missing a composite that we're still going to have to select to get that arm in front. But if I go grab this shoulder patch right here, we can nudge that so it stays on top as well, so that it's able to be found. So that's telling me we probably will want to put an OGL controller on it. So I can get in front of the torso, but not the legs. Oh. And hips. I'm thinking I must have right here my upper body. Oh, I chose the wrong kind. I chose vector pass through. Come on. I need pass through, and now that arm nudges in front properly. Okay, so it wasn't just the problems, but now we can see for, not the sleeve, but on the jacket here, we will want OGL controllers for these two items. Modify that so it stays inside our backdrop. So let's add in an OGL controller here. Oh, too many. With the arm here, you can see when it's rotated. Let's put it back to 0. And we'll just nudge it back so it's now in its original form. So I like to get those set up. So with our OGL controller, we need 2 of these. One for this shoulder patch. And we're going to need one for that shoulder patch. Now let's go find our OGL comp right there. So select those. I'll click down into it so that pops them on screen. And for this patch here, we'll go in and let's just turn this one off for now, so I can now select this one. And I think I'll just put it above the shoulder up here. right shoulder patch, aerial 6, 128. And then we just move that over to line up with that. And remember to turn off setup. Turn on our setup. Move that over here. Diamond, 0.2. Label, left shoulder patch, text at 6, 128. Okay, looks like we ended up size 0.2. There we go. And move the text over so it lines up with it that way. Move the whole thing down, turn off setup, close. Alright, so we got our patches, we got that set up. So that now significantly cleans up our project there. What we need to do now is move over onto our right sleeve here. And we do have deformations for those pieces, and which I also I'm looking at the sleeve artwork here, and as I move the arm I feel like this should be more let me look at the drawing of it, turn off the light box so we can see this should be rounder. It shouldn't be as straight a line right there on it. So it should be more following that shape there. Based on the rest of the arm. So now that we have that, well, first let's delete all of that, copy back over, and ooh, do we still have, oh no, we don't have the right color. Here it's hoping it's right, but doesn't always work out that way, so we'll just refill. That gives me my sleeve, and then what I'll also need to do with that revised sleeve is go into my rigging mode and look at that deformer here. No, I can't see it there, but turn off rigging mode, click here so it's off. Okay, I just deactivated the wrong layers. Wanted to deactivate the artwork, so active, active, deactivate, because I wanted to be able to see my line. Click on that deformer, go back into my rigging mode, and let's just clean this up a little bit. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Working with that, go here, hide that, zoom back out, and oh, had the right one here, active, all right. So now we are in much better shape. The other thing we do have to remember on the arms is what I realized I still never deleted. If we go into, not the sleeve, but into the arm. So if I look at, I'm going to leave the hand point here, because if we zoom in, you can see I didn't delete that point when I deleted the pivot points. But if I go into the arm, go into my drawing view here, we'll see that under, well, line art there, there. So I'm going to leave the one on the hand simply because while I start drawing or creating some of the other views for the hand, it'll be nice to have that there. But if I look at the arm here and the upper arm, I know I don't want those points. So let's go and select those and hit delete, go into the lower arm, delete, and delete. So we'll leave the one on the hand while I create other, no, we don't need it, because we'll leave this part of the hand as we're creating our different views for the hand, so I don't think we need to worry about that. So we'll get rid of it. So that now cleans that up. Go back into our camera view here, zoom back out a little bit. We don't have a deformer on the hand because we're going to use hand substitution when I go into my lower arm here. So one thing I'm going to do, oh no, that won't work. Yes, we'll just turn our pivot points back on so we can see the curves that we need to line up with. Perfect. Okay, so go into the lower arm, go into the rigging tool, and again, we verify, yep, I'm still using envelope deformer, so I can put my starting point wherever I want. So now I'm just going to click my first point here, and I think I'm going to use do a 6-point deformer on this one, so I'll drag back to the beginning, drag back to the beginning, cross, and I'll drag to finish it. So this should get me pretty darn close to what I need for my deformer as we are setting it up. And as we will eventually animate, we will use, again, we always start out, build our rough pose before doing any deformers, just by repositioning the pieces and then adjust deformers to match our intent of what we are trying to achieve. Okay, so that now gives me my lower arm deform. We can see it got a little grumpy about spacing there. Just pull this up here for the upper arm, click on the upper arm. So we'll hide all deformers there. Now with the upper arm, this one's going to be really easy to do because we have it set up, upper arm is selected. So now I can just drag across, drag, drag. So knowing that we built it with this basic shape, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that is now going to align my parts, gets my deformation in. So now that I've added in the deformers that I need, we'll turn off our pivots layer so we're no longer looking at that. I am going to go on my sleeve and grab the sleeve line. As I select the sleeve line, oh, I don't want to be using the rigging tool, I want to use this. I am going to Also with that selected, turn off animate, and then, so this doesn't even keyframe, it just bakes it in permanently. So we'll just grab the sleeve line peg right here. So I have the sleeve line peg selected, and I will nudge it forward 1. So it's always going to be in front of everything else based on the artwork. That's mostly what we need. We will need to nudge it back when we do some of the reverse views as we push the whole arm and everything back, but it will go back with that. So if the arm goes back, we just have to do like a double nudge, but that now gets it set up there. So it's turned back on. So with that, we now have our right sleeve, we have our right arm, those are selected, everything is set up with our bitmap composites, we got our upper body, perfect. And what I want to do is just select, wrong key, select those 2 items, nodes, clone, selected nodes. Now we will rename these, of course, so they're not connected to any of our group composites there, but we will rename this one now as left. Not fell, L. Left sleeve. And left arm. So they are set there. We'll just select our upper body. Whoa, that didn't work quite right. My cloning did not work, so that's weird. Clone node. Okay, that creates a right sleeve, right arm. Okay. That was weird that I got an empty backdrop. I don't know if I selected it wrong or what. So now we have our left arm. Our left sleeve. And once again, we're going to need to do our flip on it because it's currently occupying the same position. So this is the arm. So what we'll do is add in our static transformation. Now noticing how the arm needs to master peg the sleeve, so it's doing that. And then what I want to do, well, we won't see either of these yet because their comps aren't joined in on the upper body, so we will drag okay, that's jacket. I was just a little confused. I'm like, what one am I looking at there? So drag the arm over. Drag the sleeve in, so now we can see they're there. And what I want to do is create a flip peg for it. I'll join these to the upper body master in a minute, but I'll just now add in a peg here, and this is going to be the, I'll just call this arm flip peg. So this is the peg we put in. And then we have our static transformation. Let's pull that down, pull this down a little bit so we have room. So when we flip this peg over and make this wider so I can see, do our flip, there's the arm. And now what I can do is just simply relocate this over and we can see it lines up. That is absolutely stellar, the way then that lines up. Super happy with that. We go into our static transformation, bake immediate parents thing, and then we just disconnect that flipping peg. And we save it in case we need it for any type of animation purposes. So now, let's zoom out a little bit so I can see. So we have the upper body there, and I will connect that into my static transformation, my left arm. We don't need to connect it into the sleeve. And with that, we have properly set up and configured our arm for transformation. We're able to now nudge our layers correctly by using the correct type of composites. And again, I apologize for that. There is a setting in our preferences. So we can choose the default pass-through composite. So if we choose that every time we add a composite, it comes up as a pass-through, so we don't have to convert them afterward. But by default, that is not checked in the program. So that is something you probably want to check as a box so that they default as a pass-through and you only turn it off on the times you don't need it. So that would be something that's a very subtle difference, but we can see when it comes to nudging how it can have a profound effect on our project. So that's super important to keep in mind when we are building our rigs. Okay, that's really interesting. So when I copied over the first thing and it didn't work, where we had the empty backdrop and I redid it, apparently there were, or somehow things got selected weirdly, because it should just be within the arm where we have 1, 2, 5 plus a master. One, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus a master. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what happened on that, why we got such, it didn't work drawings, but either way, we now have our comp set up, we have our additional arm, and it's been flipped. So I hope this addendum video to doing the arm flip helps correct some of the issues that we had, so going forward we'll have smooth sailing. Happy rigging.